There we go. Awesome. All right, so let's get started. So I don't know what's up with Zoom at the moment. It's doing funny things, but we're recording it. So if you're thinking you're watching from home and you're not able to, it'll be recorded on our YouTube page tomorrow. So we're going to jump right in. We're now 1 minute behind, so I will give you that minute back. And tonight's topic is a very important one. And we've taught a couple times before, but it's called the Prescribed Epidemic. So we're going to go through a lot of the how it happened, what's going on, and what can be done to change it. And some things some states have actually done to change it. But the first most important thing is to understand the reason we're in the situation we are now in America with prescriptions. Specifically tonight we're going to talk about opioids, is because there was a problem. And come on, there we go. And when we have a problem in life, it is human nature to try to find a solution. So the problem is that there is a lot of people who are in pain every single day of their life for what's called chronic pain. So just as a quick exercise for anybody at home or the couple people who have joined me live today, who knows someone who has been affected by heart disease? How about diabetes? How about cancer? So everybody in the room put their hand up every single time. There are more people in the United States that suffer with chronic pain, there it is, than have all of those things combined. So 30% of the population, or basically everyone, knows someone who is suffering from chronic pain. So to describe chronic pain for a moment, it's essentially pain that's been there for at least 6 months or more, that's debilitating so much so that it depletes many people's ability to even want to get out of bed, go to work, have a productive life, because they're in so much pain every day. And to back up, the slide that I went by is just to define what an opioid is. There are synthetic opioids, there is more natural opioids, but the fact is, and we'll get into this a little bit, is that an opioid is essentially heroin that's been prescribed and is now legal, but chemically it is very, very, very similar to heroin in case there's one chemical bond that's different from heroin, but it essentially has the same effect on your neurology. But the idea of the opioid is that it's hopefully breaking a neurologic pain pathway, which interestingly, one of the reasons we talk about this in a chiropractic office is that same exact neurologic pathway is affected and the pain pathway is broken with the adjustment more effectively than the opioid drug based on the research. But to dig in a little bit more about tonight, it's literally 116 million-ish people, whatever a third of our country is right now, suffer with chronic debilitating pain every day. Our theme for our year for OTFC is inspired longevity. And inspired longevity, the idea is to inspire people to take control of their health and do it for a lifetime. And it's to choose to get adjusted for a lifetime. And if you don't understand the benefits of that, that's part of the reason why we do these classes. But the opposite side of inspired longevity is where we're living right now. Because people are making choices that they believe could potentially be the right thing to help them, but then they're ending up in a situation where they have chronic pain that literally changes the neurology of their body and sets them up with a chronic pain pathway that then has to be broken on the neurological level. Even if you fix the back pain, say, for example, the reason for the back pain, if you don't retrain the body to realize it's not there, you still have the same problem. So that's why, for many cases, the opioids actually fail, where they have to keep upping the doses to get the same effect. So it's literally a third of the population. So to dig in a little bit, there's a huge difference in the way that the United States, Western world, reacts to pain than... I noticed, I don't know why. I've reopened it, but it's still not working.
Yeah, like I tried to log in on my computer and it just says that the host is in another meeting.
That's cool. All right. So we'll try one more time for the Zoomers. I don't really know why. All right. Come on. Let's go. That's today's meeting. It's the workshop. It's a different code. Oh, that's a pain in the butt. All right. So everybody's going to get to watch it online later on. I don't know why it's a different code, but it changed code, so we'll have to update the text message. So if you get to be here live, you get the whole workshop. Everybody else, will let them know it will be on, hopefully it's recording, and let's make sure it is, since we're having problems. It is recording, cool. So we're just gonna keep going, then it'll be on YouTube tomorrow, and we'll get it updated for the text messages. So advantages of being live. So in the United States, we react to pain as a problem that needs to be essentially destroyed. And in other Western countries, they react to it very differently. So a very quick story is basically that a woman from the United States ended up in Germany with her spouse got deployed to Germany. And every time she would come back to the United States, she would literally fill up her suitcase with medications that she could get over the counter that she couldn't get there to deal with like pain and minor colds and stuff like that. So she literally was a traveling pharmacy for anything you could get over the counter here because she couldn't get it there. Well, as the story goes on, after living there for a few years, she ended up needing a significant surgery that she needed to have a hysterectomy. And what she told the doctor was, I want Vicodin. I want really good painkiller so I don't have to feel this. And she went to the doctor doing the surgery, the anesthesiologist, every step of the way, and every single one of them said, no, we're not doing it because your body needs to feel the pain. And as the story goes on, what she realized is that she healed faster while not having the medications to help her feel okay. What the doctor actually shared with her is that basically we want you to feel it so that you know what you can and what you can't do. Because when we take drugs that are convincing our bodies that we feel okay or blocking the pathways, then we overdo, and if it's any kind of internal surgery, then we can actually cause more damage and take more time to heal. So they said you can have herbal tea. So the title of the article is I Want Vicodin, Not Herbal Tea. And you can find this, it was right out of the New Yorker, but her only concern was to get out of pain. And as we go through the story a little bit, basically the doctor told her what's in red here. We're not going to read it for tonight, but that pain is a result. I want to make sure I'm still screen sharing since we're recording. Hang on a second. Yes, okay. So pain is good. Pain is to help you understand what's happening. But if you ask most people in the US, pain is bad. Pain is something to get rid of. We need to do anything we can to be comfortable and be out of pain. I know Zoom's not working.
Okay.
Yeah,
Something in
I can't fix it. So it'll all be recorded for everybody else. It's all right. We'll fix it for next week. Yes. Anyway, so the idea is your body works with a purpose and with a reason. And if we choose to live at a higher level of consciousness and understanding to know that things are happening to us for a reason, and the goal is, at least in my worldview, to seek first to understand what's going on, as opposed to let's just try to, in the case of opioids, since that's what we're talking about, try to drug the pain away and feel okay without ever understanding the problem. So we, of course, have to talk about the Sackler family. Anybody know who they are? So the Sackler family, these were two who I will say very well-intending brothers who were both doctors. They took care of a lot of patients who were in a lot of pain. So they wanted to come up with a solution for the problem of chronic pain. And what they came up with was the derivative of heroin, which is now called opioids. And it's opioids across the board. And what's interesting is if we dig in and study the history and research what actually happened with all these things, is when they first came up with this solution, why it worked really well, the entire medical establishment said, no thank you. This is basically the same exact thing as heroin. It's the same thing that's illegal anywhere else that you need to go to the subculture of our world to go find, and it has the same reaction in the body. So they all said, no way, we want nothing to do with it. We understand that your goal is to help people, but this is the wrong way to do it. Everybody knew it. Every pharmaceutical company they went to said no. Every doctor they went to said no. Every nurse, they all looked at the chemical makeup and said, no way, we're not doing this. So the Sackler family, as the story goes on, eventually decided, well, I think we really have something here. So what would make a lot of sense is let's hire a marketing firm. So the marketing firm, and this is all released thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, so if you really want to dig into it, you can find this stuff yourself. The marketing firm came up with research that says that opioids are good for you and that they're really being helpful in getting rid of chronic pain. So they designed research studies to get the result they wanted, which unfortunately happens a little bit more than you would think. It's why some of the classes that we teach is how to determine what the research actually is and digging into that. If you want to tell them that I'm going to do the whole thing on Facebook, so anybody trying to get in can just jump on Facebook. She started working out yesterday. So they basically made up research in a way that was allowing it to seem like a better idea. So they then came back with this research and said, see, we did the research, it's not bad, it's really safe. Well, we all know how that happened because now we live in an opioid epidemic, so clearly they had to make this stuff fictitiously. So along the way, there's these families that do really great stuff. So the Sacklers, if you look them up, some of the first things you're going to learn about them is they're incredibly philanthropic. They donate entire wings of hospitals and museums, like the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, an entire wing of it is donated by the Sackler family. This article, which you can get access to also, basically just goes through all the different things, all the schools, all the medical programs, everything that they've donated. They became incredibly philanthropic. Interestingly, if we really look at opioids for what they really are, and we compare it to another culture of a border a little south of us where somebody named Escobar used to live, he kind of did the same thing as he got more successful. He would literally go around handing out bags of money to everyone in town. They did the same thing, they just did a little bit more in a acceptable, fancy way, I guess you could say. They donated really great things because they had literally bags of money to donate. So again, they started with good intentions, or at least I believe that to be true, because I want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and ultimately we know where we are now. So I don't even need to really say what's happening there, but the New Yorker, they did it in 1996, they said, well, they came out with and decided in 1996, they said, so how did this actually happen? And what they found is it did not actually start with opioids. It did start around 1996, because around 1996, they actually changed some laws and changed the culture of prescribing in America. If you go back to pre-96, we were not the country that took 80% of the medication on the planet. We didn't take more than anybody else and spend more than anybody else. We had a much different healthcare system. But around 1996, we changed the culture of prescriptions and it became a much more acceptable thing. And if, an example of this is if you go to most of the next generation that's older than us, and many of them are a little hesitant with just taking medication because they grew up in a world was, let's understand how the body works and fix the problem. An example would be, what if we had high blood pressure, instead of just getting high blood pressure medication for life, the doctor said, you're off of this in 6, 9, or 18 months, and we're going to figure out how you got there and we're going to fix it. That does happen, just not very often. So we're now in a reality for the last 24 or 25 years now. Wow. Anyway.
That's the year I got married, so that's how I know.
Yeah, so I just had a moment there. Anyway, so we're now in a reality that for 20 plus years of life, it's been very common and very normal that this is how we react to health. There's a problem, we go find the shiny bullet or the pill or the thing that's going to fix it, and that's going to fix our problem. And then we end up with a world that 30% of us are chronic in pain, not even chronic sickness or all the other issues we have. So this is just an article that goes over that. It was initiated by a shift in the culture of prescribing. So this is the marketing plan they came up with. Remember, so oxycodone or cotton, and there's a bunch of different versions, but they're all kind of the same idea. They're slightly different chemical derivatives of the same thing. So oxycontin is the drug to start with. So wait a minute, hang on, we should have a problem here already. So it's basically heroin. It's another derivative of a morphine, which morphine is primarily was used in World War I and World War II in end-of-life situations to help people be more comfortable. It's the same stuff, basically. And they came out with a slogan of, it's the drug to start with, and this is my favorite, and it's the drug to stay with. So here's the issue. The research they did themselves showed that it changes your brain chemistry for most people within 4 pills. A lot more than 4 pills fit in that little bottle. So it takes 4 pills to get someone now addicted on a neurological level. Not addicted because they take the pill and they feel better and they're in their sense of euphoria like we see on all the drug commercials on the planet, which just, I don't watch a lot of network TV, we'll call it, so I don't see a lot of those, but it's the weirdest thing, right? The entire commercial is like running through fields or going scuba diving or living this amazing life, and the entire time they're telling you all the horrible things that happen along with this medication that they call a side effect, which is really an effect. But anyway, again, I got to back up and just pause for a moment here because some people interpret my presentation of such things as this as I'm very anti many things. No, I'm pro one thing, and it's the one thing that we should understand what we're doing and really seek to realize how we should react to life instead of just letting life happen to us, if that makes sense. So I'm not anti this. This is good in some cases. We should do this in some cases if someone's at the end of life and they're in a ton of pain. Absolutely, let's help them be more comfortable. We should not be prescribing it all willy-nilly when someone shows up in pain. Shouldn't be happening. It's the drug to start with and the drug to stay with. So this is just...
It took my mother-in-law about a month to break. So she was on Oxy for MS for probably 15 years. And it took her about a month, and she went through the full detox, which they don't tell you
Right.
when they prescribe it to you. But she did it, and she did it on her own.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm proud of her for
And
that.
a
She's
lot of
better
people
for it.
don't have the strength to do that.
No.
Because I've never gone through that. I never intend to go through that, but to go through a detox, it's the same as any other like really strong narcotic drug to go through. And the solution, and this is not really in the topic of tonight, but the solution, what is the solution for opioid addiction? It's a different drug.
Yeah.
So you have the problem of a drug, and we're just going to give you a different drug. I have a friend, Dr. Tony Gardner up in New York. He gets zero funding from the state of New York, but he helps lots and lots of people get off these opioids, get back to productive life, teaches them how to do things, and gets them back on track. And I can't think of the name of, he's a chiropractor, and his real passion is doing this, but he's also a chiropractor. And they won't give him any funding. They'll give him, I think that last statement, somewhere between $1 and $10 million the moment he starts prescribing the drug to get people off it. But he won't do it because we're just replacing the problem with another problem. We're getting them addicted to something else. But off topic. So they actually did a study to see, well, what happened related to drug deaths, and clearly we're not at a slight increase, we're now at an exponential increase in these problems. And yes, some states have stepped up and done some things differently, but on a whole, last time I checked, which was when I taught this class middle of last year, Virginia's rate of opioid deaths is still rising. So it was like 4% higher than the year before. There are other states like West Virginia, we'll talk about them in a moment, that's actually going down. So West Virginia, Ohio, New Hampshire are among some of the ones that we'll look at in just a second. They had the worst rate per capita of anybody on the planet, and they've put some very strong things in place, and we'll hit those in a second. But the reason we're talking about that is 8 out of 10 people that are on opioids for back pain. Some things are coincidence, some things are not. 80% statistically of appointments to your medical doctor are back pain. So if more people knew that we could accomplish the same neurologic change with an adjustment that has virtually zero side effects besides maybe being a little sore like going to the gym for the first time in a while, as opposed to a drug that, while it takes most people 4 to get addicted to, there's 10% of the population, the first one they take, it changes their brain chemistry forever, and there's nothing you can do to change it at that point. That's just the research on it. So it's a big issue. So that means 80% of the 113 million people who have chronic pain who have the potential to be on something like this, it could have went a different way if they knew there was a different solution. But if you're the person who is in that chronic pain every single day, who can't even get up, can't go to work, doesn't want to do anything because you're in so much pain every day, and the solution is this tiny little pill, it's very, very easy.
It's quick.
It's simple. And it's an easy solution to a complicated problem. It's not the right solution, but it's an easy solution because now they get to go back to potentially having a productive life. But then we have the other side of the epidemic where, at last time I checked, which is again last year, it's something like every 7 or 8 minutes someone dies in the United States of an opioid overdose, and they were properly prescribed, properly taken opioids. This is an issue. So the problem, of course, is chronic pain. The solution is kill the pain. The result is an opioid overdose. It's not really the proper solution, at least in my worldview, and for most of you joining us, whether you're on our YouTube page tomorrow, if you're on Facebook Live with us or in the room, if you believed that that was the right solution, you probably wouldn't be in a chiropractic office engaging in a workshop that's having a conversation about, maybe we should take a different approach. So these are the different states. I'm just going to click through these to get back on timing because I got a little excited. There we go, perfect. So Ohio, West Virginia, New Hampshire. So they all took different approaches. West Virginia actually mandates alternative care. Chiropractic was named in that as of a certain number of visits before you can ever get the drug prescription filled. Well, that's kind of an idea. And I think it's something like 20 visits. And they base that on the standards of care document from the International Chiropractic Association that they did studies from 1901 till now. And they found that most people somewhere around the 3-month mark, which is not really 20 visits, but are going to have something like 50% recovery. And as far as the insurance company is concerned, that's awesome because 50% better is easy to track. The other 50% is really, really hard. So even insurance, their goal is to get you 50% better, and then that's all they really want to do because the other 50% is a lot of hard work to do, and that's not what insurance is designed for. In Ohio, they decided, well, opioids are FDA approved, right? There's something floating around right now. I'm just going to say it kind of out in the open. There's something that many people are choosing to do, and I'm not telling you what to choose to do that is not FDA approved. Just be aware of that. But what they did is they said, we're going to sue the drug companies that are making this stuff in the first place. That's a big, bold move when it has FDA approval. Ohio won a bunch of those suits. And then New Hampshire, they did the research and said, okay, if people use specifically chiropractic care, what happens? They're 55% less likely to ever take the opioid. The first few times I read it, I didn't totally get it. They're 55% less likely to take it. They're 55% less likely to fill it. which means they never fill the bottle. The bottle can't be in their cabinet. They can't think they're doing something good for a friend or a family member who's in pain and share it with them, and that person then ends up addicted to it, which that's actually one of the bigger issues if you really dig into it. It's people sharing these drugs because they think they're being helpful, and the person that's shared with doesn't realize that they should only take a certain amount, and they think, well, if one is good, two is better. Anyway, so just a little information about what happened with that. And all of these states, their opioid deaths are on the decline. In Virginia, for example, at least as of last year, it could be different right now, but as of last year, on the most updated information I could find, we were on the incline by about 4.5%. So chiropractic care for the win, this is actually the article, and it's from 2018, where they looked in New Hampshire and they found that 55% less likely to even fill it. New Hampshire was the second highest deaths of opioids per person in the US. So again, if the problem is pain and the solution is maybe not opioids, then really what we need to choose to do, or what I believe would really help the world be a different, healthier place, whether it's chronic pain, if it's some other disease or whatever it is we first need to come alongside people and help them. If you're one of those people who's in that terrible pain every single day, or you have a very significant health issue, and even if the person sitting next to you doesn't understand it's significant, doesn't matter. If you feel like it's significant, it is. To understand where you're at and how to help you come out of it, not just simply give you something that's going to keep you in the same exact activity that got you in the problem you have in the first place, and just hope that maybe something's going to change. That's not how you achieve health, or as we started off, our theme of the year is inspired longevity, because if we're all designed to last at least 100 years or more, then it would be a really good idea to help inspire people to take actions that are going to get them there at a really healthy, vitalistic level, not at 100-something years old and they're not even sure who they are, right? So we have to open conversations, help others grow informed, and call them to action. So my call to action for you guys is to share this with somebody. You know, sometimes we teach this class and there's been a time where there were 3 or 4 people sitting here who were on the story of opioid addiction, and they were addicted, and they were like, mom or mother-in-law, you said?
Mother-in-law.
It was your mother-in-law, and they themselves got themselves out of it. Other times we've had this conversation, the person sitting here, unbeknownst to me, was in the middle of this, and they never shared it with us. Even when we asked them to fill out the information of all the drugs they're taking, never put it down. And this gave them the opportunity to say, well, maybe I should do something different. Because if we leave, whether it's this workshop, if it's next week's, it doesn't matter. If we leave and keep the information for ourselves, it's simply not okay. So tonight, I am not asking you to refer people in. I'm not finding out who needs to be at one of these workshops. I want a commitment to call you to action, to open up these conversations. We just had the holidays pass. Sometimes I teach this right before on purpose, because at a different time of year, more people were gathering in groups, and those same groups of people tend to have conversations that are maybe not the most uplifting, right? We've all experienced that. And maybe it's going to be tough, but it would be a really wise idea to bring up the idea that there's a problem, we need to find a solution, and this isn't really the greatest solution. So the beginning is now. No matter what you've done so far in your life and in your health, none of it matters. The only thing that matters is what you choose to think, say, and do now. Because if you're unhappy with your health, you can't be different by doing the same activity. We talk about this back on day 2 for anyone who's a patient that's enjoying this. If you want something different, you have to choose to do something different, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So if it's chronic pain, if it's migraines, if it's sciatica, whatever the issue is, let's first slow down and listen to our body. Let's choose to try to understand what's happening. As many of you know, if you've been here before, maybe you're watching online, you're like, I'm on these drugs and I don't know that's something different. If you're local, come see us. We'll check you and see if there's anything we can do to help as my gift, just as the pre-screening part. If you're not local, send us a message and I'll find you somebody. Because the fact that 8 out of 10 people on opioids are on them for back pain, when all of the research, as we review in some of our other workshops, show that chiropractic outperforms traditional medical treatment, traditional physical therapy for back pain, all of it with a much higher satisfaction rating, then it would be really easy, if that was the story being told, for people to say, well, let me go check out the chiropractor down the street, as opposed to let me go get the next drug to help me feel okay. But that's not the story that's being told right now. It's being told that chiropractic is dangerous and all these things that are untrue, and there's no founding in research about it. And since I have a moment, I've had 4, but I'm only going to take one. I want to hit a topic that comes up every single year in the beginning of the year in the media, if you've ever noticed, that somebody has a stroke and then chiropractor gets blamed. So fun fact, what's the first question when someone has a stroke when they walk into most ERs on the planet?
When you go through that be safe, you do that speech and arms and
Right.
all that.
So what the doctors are actually trained to ask is, have you seen a chiropractor?
Oh, right.
Are you kidding me? The research is done. I have it sitting in my office of thousands and thousands of cases where they first looked at 1 million people and they looked at 5 million and then 10 million and couldn't find a single linkage. What they actually found through the research is people who get adjusted are 50% less likely to have a stroke than someone who doesn't. But the story that's out there in a lot of our medical community, and they believe to be completely true because they got it from a trusted source, is that chiropractors cause strokes. Not related to opioids, but that could be a reason someone's not going to show up here and be on these opioids. The fact is the average person walking on the street has a 4.236% chance of having a stroke. The person under chiropractic care is less than 2%. That's just the research. So I realize that's not the topic of the night, but it came up in my mind for a reason. And really our goal is to simply help people and inspire them for more. So I will not post a survey since I'm watching myself on Zoom right now, but I will post this on YouTube tomorrow. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining me, and sorry for the technical issues.